On this week's FPL Happy Hour.
On Twitter, find us on Twitter at FPL_Happy Hour. You'll find us on YouTube. If you're watching this, then you've found us. Well done. You'll find us on Spotify, iTunes, Podbeans, Castbox. I think I saw us on earlier. There's loads of places. Pornhub. Hello and welcome to another episode of FPL Happy Hour. Myself, Rob, otherwise known as FPL Panda.
And myself, Sham, otherwise known as FPL 2 Guys 1 Cup, although you cannot tell that from my voice.
No, you're a lot quieter this week, mate.
I know. That's why you're hosting. I'm worse for wear.
This week we're joined once again by our good friend James, or at James CC1234. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, boys. How are you two?
Well, I'm a bit worse for wear, but other than that, I'm all right. I just had a fucking shit, a good weekend, but yeah, my voice is gone.
Right, so what have we got up coming up for you this evening? We are going to be talking about a certain farmyard animal man that has made his way back to the Premier League. I'm sure nobody has heard of him before, but we'll talk about him. And James is going to talk a little bit about his time in over the last 2 years or 3 years in Serie A. And then we've got our community topic, which is Premiership newcomers, where we're going to have a look at some of the new players that have come to the Premier League, some of which we're hoping actually make the final signings this evening, as we're recording, a couple of hours before the transfer deadline passes. But first of all, let's just have a look at how we did this week. We'll go with James first, because you're last, sadly, out of the three of us. So we'll go with you first. How did you get on this week?
I'm not going to use too many expletives because we're on YouTube, but pretty poorly again. I was flying high when we spoke last week, Robert. 1.9 million in the world. I'm down to 3.2 million in the world. So that was a nice big fat red arrow this week. Yep. Martinez, clean sheet, wiped out inside 7 minutes. Luke Shaw got me a clean sheet, and it must have been 2 bonus points in the end for 6. Trent with 2 bonus points in a 1-1 draw. That was always nice. Lewis Dunk got his clean sheet wiped out, so that was 1 point. Ben Rama, who I bought in for, well, technically Mo Salah, but really Ivan Toney, blanked, because of course he did, because it's the week I brought him in. 2 points. Son with 10 was undecided between the two Tottenham boys who to take as captain, and went with the wrong one in the end. So 10 points from Son, 2 from Harvey Barnes, 2 from Stuart Dallas, another return from Danny Ings, making it 3 and 3. Another return from Calvert-Lewin. That was a much-needed 9 points. And then bought in the Sir Harold of Kane and made him captain for a whole 2 points. So all out with 44 points. The average this week was 54. And as I said, a red arrow now of 1.34 million. So
it looks like we chose a good guest to replace me with. For the few weeks that I've been off, right? I mean, cracking choice we made.
I never said I was an expert. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I didn't. So,
to be fair, you've never billed yourself as a Premier League expert, so You've
I
always
really
built.
don't actually know anything about the Premier League. I don't know why I'm here, really.
That's why you got that shirt on.
Yeah, exactly. Misguided. So, yeah, I'm very close to hitting the wildcard button just because I think I've got a couple of problems in my team. And secondly, out of pure rage that I don't want to see 90% of the players that are in my team anymore. So it's going to be a long 2 weeks not wanting to press that button on the app.
Yeah, it's a tough one to take, especially made the right decision bringing in Son and just not. I mean, suppose if you have the choice between captaining Son and Kane, you're going to go Kane all day, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, especially after his 2 goals against Ferrero Rocher. I thought we were on to something against Watford, but yeah, all in all, took Salah and Tony out they got me 2 goals and 3 bonus points, and brought in Kane and Benrahma. They got me 4 points between them. So yeah, not the best decision in the end.
On
James,
the week
if it
that
makes you feel any better, I didn't look at my team and I scored 25 more points than you. So
Yeah, thanks. That makes me feel 10 times better. I bought in the wrong West Ham asset, and that's where I went wrong. And just never trust Harry. I've never trusted Harry Kane with the armband again. Is where we're at.
I think it's one of those where on another day, Son blanks and Kane gets a double-digit haul.
Well, Kane should have had 2. He had 2 chances in the back stick in the second half. One's cleared off the line, and one's a point blank save. And if he gets 2 goals, he gets 3 bonus points, and it's like a 24-point captaincy over a 2-point captaincy. So it's one of those. I've still got another 35 weeks of
pain,
gradual gains to get me back in. Wow, can't get much worse. Let's be honest. If it gets much worse, I'm not coming back.
Right. Oh, Sham, have you looked how you got on? Did you do all right?
Yeah, so I have briefly looked. I just wanted to see how many. I just logged on to see how many points ahead of you boys I was. That's all I looked for, really. So 68 points, game week rank of 1 million, but in overall 11,394. My strategy so far is very much working for the season. Captained Antonio, and yeah, I mean that was the main thing. Captain Antonio. Everyone else dipped in here and there, and as I kind of said along the beginning of the season, my 2 differentials were Benrahma and Antonio. Benrahma didn't perform, but Antonio did. I didn't want to ditch Tony, although a lot of people were. I swallowed the price drop. 6.4, and he returned for me. So yeah, overall decent week. I can't complain.
Cool. Well, how did I go? I got on kind of in the middle of both of you. So I finished on 61 points for this week. I mean, I couldn't really get much better than that with what I had. I used just the one transfer in the end to do. Who did I do? I brought in Benrahma for someone. But yeah, blank from Soufal, Shaw clean sheet, but everyone had him. TAA 4 points. Bruno 2, Barnes 2, Salah 10, Benrahma 2. I had Tony as well. I thought about dropping him for Armstrong, but glad I didn't in the end. Ings of his return, and yeah, Captain Antonio, who I think he was the second most popular captain this week behind Salah. Was it behind Salah or was it behind Bruno? Behind Bruno, I think it was.
I think it was behind Bruno, yeah, from what I saw.
Which yeah, I mean, so many people after his performances in the first couple of weeks, I think it's well deserved that yeah, he was up there with the captaincy choices. Yeah, my rank at the moment, it was a red arrow, despite being over average. It was a red arrow back down to like 720k, something like that. So yeah, I'm envisaging, is that a word? Possibly another red arrow next week with lots of wild cards being played. But
You're used to that though, anyway, Rob. So it's fine.
Well, But what,
Yeah, red
blanking?
arrows.
Oh, red arrows.
Got both. Both.
All right, mate. All right. So, yeah,
Listen, I'm taking it while I can. I am reveling in this.
Yeah, I can't wait
I
till you
am
come
reveling
last.
in this.
I can't wait till you come last out the three of us.
Yeah, I'm reveling in the banter between us while I can.
Can you see I am too? Yeah. So yeah, whilst everyone else is wildcarding in game week 4, it seems, so that they can squeeze in Lukaku and Ronaldo and Kane and Salah and Bruno and TAA and fit them all into their teams. Yeah, I won't be doing that, and but I've got 2 free transfers to maybe do like a little mini wild card with a -4, but plenty of time to go, and there's a lot of players that I own, and I think that we all own, that will be playing 2 or 3 games between now and game week 4 for their countries. So we shall see what happens. Right, on to our first topic of the week, and that is a certain Cristiano Ronaldo joining my beloved Man United. It was a very emotional day on Friday. Those that saw our live stream on Thursday evening, I was a broken man talking about him going to City, but gradually had brought myself into some form of peace about that happening as the stream went on, to then on through Friday morning just being glued to the TV with the unraveling of that move to City, and then it suddenly becoming quite apparent that United were well in the running. I mean, I think at like 11 o'clock at night on the Thursday, I think City was something like 1 to 10 to sign it, like odds on to sign Ronaldo. And Man United were like 12 to 1 by, I think it was like 10 o'clock on Friday morning. City were only 10 to 11 and Man United were even money. And
Can I
at
just
that
say this
point,
from my perspective, how this panned out? So obviously I was away and I didn't know what was going on, but I tried to tune in to the live stream at some point that you guys did on Thursday. I couldn't sign in at the time, so I just, when I got into bed, I listened for like half an hour or so back with my ropey YouTube like internet connection, and I was like, it was, you guys were talking about him going to City and how disappointed you were and how are we fitting Ronaldo in our team, blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay, cool, it's a done deal, right? Next thing I know, I didn't check my phone properly till like maybe Saturday morning. All Friday I was really busy, and I was like, and I saw Ronaldo to United, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, they were talking about him going to City like 24 hours ago. How's it gone from City to United in like 24 hours? And I was like, I was like, did they get it wrong on the stream? Like, I was thinking when you were talking about City, I was like, surely they couldn't have got it that wrong. But anyway, yeah.
yeah,
So
I
from
mean,
my perspective,
on Thursday it was a done deal. Like, that was what everyone was saying. All the newspapers were saying it. Sky Sports was saying it. Fabrizio Romano was saying it. It's going to happen. Like, he was getting ready for his here we go. And then yeah, gradually through Friday morning, it switched, and suddenly the momentum looked like it was with him going to United, and then I think it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I was working, and by this point, I've got TweetDeck up on my laptop whilst I'm working, just with notifications on anything that Romano says, because he was tweeting constantly. And then he said, "I'm going live in 5 minutes on Twitch. Man United fans, you're going to want to watch this." So he goes live. Within 10 seconds of him going live, he just sits there and just goes, "Here we go." And I was a broken man. Yeah, it was weird getting that invested emotionally, maybe, into a transfer of a player that played for my club 13 years ago. But yeah, now I can't wait to see the pictures of him back in after he's played for Portugal, back in training, and we might even know what shirt number he'll have by then. But he's been added to
Who's
FPL.
Who's number 7 at United at the moment?
Cavani is.
Edison.
The latest news on that is that Man United have applied for special dispensation from the Premier League to be able to re-register Cavani as number 21, taking Dan James's number, because that's his squad number for Uruguay, and then Ronaldo then being able to take the number 7. This has never happened before, though.
Interesting.
But
they've got to let him do it, surely.
I can imagine the Premier League and Man United and Ronaldo's people will have to create some form of deal that reimburses the Premier League for the inconvenience of having to write a different number next to his name. But there you go. So Cristiano Ronaldo has been announced this afternoon as a £12.5 million forward in FPL. Before we go and look at his stats, from both of your points of view, does that interest you at 12.5 million?
So from my point of view, yes. Although, as I mentioned to you on the stream, off stream before, I don't know if he goes straight into that side and plays against Newcastle. But both of you are pretty confident that he does do that. I was planning on, maybe giving it a week and seeing how he does, keeping Bruno in there. But it sounds like he's going to start, and if he's going to start, you're going to want him in your side. The only thing is, and I don't know, and this is where, James, your input will be great in this, is he the Cristiano of old? Being 36 years old, we know he's a fantastic, amazing player, but is he going to be able to do it in the Premier League? Serie A is very different to the Premier League. It's very laid back. It doesn't seem as pacey, although, again, you'll be able to answer that because I'm not an expert on Serie A. Will he be able to do it in the Premier League at the age of 36?
I see no reason not, and I think just going back to the price point one to begin with, I think that's actually cheap for what we said, Rob, the other day. I think when you look at 12.5 million, let Harry Kane start the season at 12.5, so there's your choice, really, isn't it? I know Lukaku's $1 million cheaper, but I think even with my Serie A hat on and bit of bias, I don't think Lukaku is Ronaldo's level, so I'm not going to put him up there. And do I think he'll work in the Premier League? Absolutely. No matter what team he'd come to, if it had been the blue or the red side of Manchester, he would have worked because of the players that he's going to play in and around him. I think the Juventus team that he's kind of played in the last 2 years, let's say, has really been in transition, and if anything, it's just taken his game to a whole new level that he's actually had to burden quite a lot of the responsibility in that team. And coming into Manchester United now, he's going to have everything he could have ever wanted in that Juve team around him. You've got Bruno, Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood, Pogba. Even if he'd gone to Man City, he would have had Torres, Grealish, De Bruyne, Mahrez, Jesus. I think the game that we saw of Ronaldo when he was first in the Premier League and what you saw a lot of his time in Real Madrid is not the game you're going to see now. And he is going to be a lot of in between the posts. That's going to be him. And it's going to be uncomplicated brilliance. It's just going to be, he'll have 3 touches in a game and he will have scored 2. And, as an FPL asset, I think that's exactly what you want. He's one of those that he doesn't need a chance. He needs half a chance and it's a goal. And I think, as I said, with the players in and around him, there's absolutely no reason why he doesn't go and get, from here, 20 goals, if not more. And, would it surprise me if he's double figure for assists as well? No, not really, with the team that he's got. And, there's a lot of talk, is he going to be on penalties? I mean, if he's on penalties, God, it could be 25 goals before we've even started. I mean, Bruno got, I don't know how many penalties he scored last year, but
I think he got
9
9
or 10.
last year.
9. So if Ronaldo gets, let's be conservative, 6 from here on in, he'll get. He'll easily get 15 to 18 goals from open play. So 20 to 25 goals, and let's say anywhere from 7 assists, if not more. You know, he's going to be a 30 goal contributions a year forward player now, and at 12.5 million, that puts him in that same bracket. I think Harry Kane has to have another season like he had last year with Son. You know, the way they linked up for Harry Kane to get near 30 goal contributions in the Premier League. So I think the price was one that was fair, and I think I'm just excited to see him back more than anything.
Yeah. So we may as well have a look at his numbers then, and from his time at United before. I mean, it was a long time ago. He was a very different player back then. His time at Real, and then his time in the last 3 years at Juve. So for those that are watching on YouTube, you may see that there's a lot of this is it's like his time at United. It's before XG and XA were really recorded, so haven't got that statistical information. And we've only taken it from his last 3 seasons at United, just because he was starting more games. Because obviously that's going to make his stats go down. The fact he wasn't the finished article yet as a player. His first season, I think he only started. I think he started like 11 games in 2003, 2004. So and like he was only 18. But yeah, by the time we hit 2006, 2007, he was very much a playing like 95% of the season for United, and very rarely got injured as well. So his time at United, for those last 3 seasons, he played 101 games, 93 starts. Just show you that how injury-free he stayed, which equated to 92 games in total, like 90 minutes. He scored 733 FPL points at 8 points per 90, which is crazy. With 66 goals.
Ridiculous.
66 goals at 0.7 goals per 90, which again is ridiculous. And this isn't compared to his time at Real. This is nothing. His assists, got 20 assists at 0.2 per 90.
I don't even remember him being this good at United.
So he has 2
I know
seasons.
he's obviously good, but I never remembered him being this good.
He had 1 season where he got like 284 points. FPL
points.
Yeah,
07-08, he got 283 points, which was 31 goals, 7 assists, and he got 35 bonus points. I was just looking. The one that makes me chuckle more is the season before, 2006-2007. He started as a £10 million player and finished the season at 12.2 million. He went up almost 2.5 million in a season, and then in that 07-08 season,
Did he go to
started
14?
at 12 and he went up to 13.7 by the end of the season.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to sign him tonight.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we can afford him.
That 07 and 08 season, I mean, he was brilliant. I mean, he was dubbed by United fans the best since best. He scored 49 goals in all competitions that season, which was, I mean, he was brilliant. He was so instrumental as we won the double that year in the league and in Europe. He scored a couple of fantastic goals on our way to that European final, and then even in 08-09, he kind of dragged us to the final himself with some more impressive appearances. But was kind of overshadowed by a certain Lionel Messi in the final itself. So right, time at United, it was a huge success. He went to Real, where between 2009 and 2018, he played 292 games, starting 284 times. The amount of minutes he played for Real, 25,082, amassing 2,027 FPL points at 7.3 points per 90, and we need to take into account that those points are worked out on his goals, assists, appearances, yellow cards, red cards. They don't include any BPS. And if we're talking about him, how many points, BPS points, did he get in that 2007, 2008 season?
35, I think
35?
he said.
35, 34, 36. Sorry, I've just gone on to look at something else that we can come back
So
to.
times that by 10, and that's probably, and then add that on to the 2027. And then you've got like probably a more accurate, because his time at Real, he was probably going to be scoring 3 BPS every game, apart from when they were getting spanked by Barcelona a few times. He scored 311 goals at 1.1 goals per game, which is crazy. 85 assists.
Decent record.
At 0.3 assists per game. And we even got some shots and shots on target. I think this is from 2016 onwards. 868 shots. So in like 3 seasons or 4 seasons, with a shots on target percentage of 39.9%. I mean, his time at Real, I mean, for a lot of us, we would have only really seen him maybe in the odd Classico we'd watch on a Sunday evening and in the Champions League. But I think some of his most memorable performances at Real have been in the Champions League. The guy's just been insane for like he's won 4 Champions League trophies with them. It was 4 in 5 years, wasn't it, that he won?
It'd be interesting to see how many games he actually blanks in across the season.
Not many.
Keep talking. I'll find out from one of his.
Have a look at last season. How many
seasons?
Or yeah.
How many times did he actually blank throughout the season? Like that would be interesting to see.
I can only remember seeing a handful of games where he'd blank. Like in the Champions League, he was outscoring almost everyone in the Champions League year on year on year on year, especially because Madrid were making finals. So he was getting himself there. But yeah, these numbers are just crazy numbers. And then finally, onto his time at Juve. Only 98 games with 94 starts. But he did score an equivalent of 559 FPL points, not including BPS. 81 goals at 0.9 goals per game, 15 assists at 0.2 assists per game. We actually have some shots and shots on target data. 529 shots in that time, 189 on target. So an accuracy of 35.7%. His shot creating actions were 392, so 4 per 90, and goal creating actions were 48, so half a goal creating action per 90. A non-penalty XG of 55.5, an XA of 11.7, giving a non-penalty XG and XA of 0.7 per 90, which is, I mean, these are all like huge stats. I think this is where James has to come in and tell us a bit about his time at Juve, because we haven't. Well, I mean, we don't watch much Serie A. Again, probably only saw Ronaldo on in Champions League games where he just goes to another level in Europe. Tell us about his time there and what went wrong for him in the last season to make him want to move and take up a new challenge rather than try and win the Serie A back with Juve, because I know that he's been under a lot of criticism from some people to say, well, if you wanted the challenge, you'd stay at Juve and try and win that title back.
Yeah, I was just looking at last season, and it might shock you. He appeared in 33 games last season, and only one of those was off the bench. He missed a couple because of COVID scares and injuries. Do you want to have a guess on how many games he didn't get a goal and assisted in 33? Probably shock you. If you had to have a guess where he still scored. How many did he score? Still got 29 goals in 33 games.
Is that it? Shit.
Yeah, it's pretty poor.
Let's say 7, 8.
He actually blanked in 14 games last season. Didn't get a goal or assist in the Serie A. I was just looking at that.
Changed your mind again.
Change your mind again.
But I
was shocked. I couldn't believe that.
So he's
I
probably.
just want to make sure.
Argue now that he's more explosive.
I just want to make sure I've got that right. I'm just doing a recount. Yeah, he missed 4 games, 2 because of COVID and 2 because of injury. 1 off the bench. Yeah, in 33 games, he got 29 goals, and he blanked in 14 out of his 33 games. He didn't get a goal or assist for Juve. But as I said, I think it's one of those where the thing I spoke about earlier, and I think the big resentment for him and the big reason behind leaving Juve is, 1, we know he's got an ego, and 2, I feel like he didn't feel like the team was being built around him. We saw, obviously, Chiellini, Bonucci are getting older, and then they lost players like Pirlo would have probably gone the first year Ronaldo would have got there, and he will have seen players come and go at Juve, and I just don't think Juve have really moved on. I think they've kind of stood still in these last couple of years, whereas teams like Inter have seemed to go kind of into the hypersphere with acceleration in what they're doing. And I think that's a lot of the resentment that Ronaldo had towards leaving. I think losing the Serie A last season, as you said, a lot of it was pinned on Ronaldo, which I think is unfair. I know he's, we can have the argument of, is he the greatest player ever? And for me, he's top 2, definitely. I'm not going to try and argue.
I think for most people, he's top 2.
I'm not going to argue first and second of all time.
We can have that argument when Messi signs for City next summer.
or Danny Ings has scored another 20 this season. No, but I think, as I said, just the team around him at Juve was really starting to lack a little bit. And as I said, the Serie A, losing the title to Inter winning their first title in 11 years, was one of those that a lot of Juve fans kind of went, well, you're Ronaldo. Why haven't you single-handedly carried us to, the Serie A? We really should walk the league every other year like we have done for the last 10 years. And I think that's a lot of burden to put on a 36-year-old, especially with what we said, that he isn't the player that was at Man United all those years ago. He isn't going to run it up and down 90 minutes down the wing and cover his fullback and defend as well as attack and then score an absolute screamer to nick you a game. For me now, he's become the clinical striker that he always was going to be, but always played out on the wing and was still able to do it. So
with that in mind, James, why should we buy him based on what you've just said?
For me, as I said before, I think the weapons he's now got around him is different gravy compared to what he had at Juve. I mean, players like Chiesa, he will have had, obviously, like players like in the midfield like Weston McKennie. Like they're good players, but they're not Pogba and Jadon Sancho, just to compare the two. If we look at a midfielder and kind of a holding mid like Pogba to like McKennie or someone like that, I just feel like the workload is more evenly spread at that Man United team. Like, as I said, the onus was on Ronaldo, and if Ronaldo didn't do it, then Juve fans were looking at Dybala to try and do it, and you start to run out of options quite quickly in that Juventus team. Whereas I think we even saw it for Man United against Wolves on Sunday, even before Ronaldo's turned up. That there's so many of them that it only takes one of them to have a good day and they'll nick it. You know, Bruno probably didn't have his best game, but then Greenwood's there, and it's just a moment of magic, and that wins it. And I think that's what Ronaldo's going to bring to this team is everyone else can have a 6 or 6.5 out of 10 kind of day, and it takes Ronaldo 2 touches and he's won you the game. And I think that's where he's going to be such a good FPL asset this year, is that the players around him are only going to add to his appeal. And I think he's not a must. He's not, if I'm not saying that if you don't have Ronaldo, you're not going to do well in FPL, but I think you'd be stupid now not to at least be thinking about 1, if not 2, if you weren't going with Ronaldo from some Man United coverage, because they're only going to score more goals now. It's not like they're going to bring Ronaldo in and they're going to score less goals, is it? So I think
he's literally a no-brainer.
For me at 12.5, it's a choice then between him and Harry Kane, and maybe you see how Ronaldo beds in and comes into that United team. But when we think that, if it takes him a couple of weeks to get up to speed, which I don't think it will, but if it takes him a couple of weeks to get used to it, and then Man United are starting to look at Rashford's on his way back, and you've got everybody else firing, like Sancho, we really haven't seen too much of at the moment, then to have a focal point like that for them all to be aiming at, then he almost does become a no-brainer. And we already know about that Man United fixture swing in 14. I mean, if you haven't got Ronaldo by then he's going to do some real damage to some people that don't have him when you get around to that fixture swing, if he's still fit, for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's it's a tough one to ponder. I think with we've just touched on the tricky fixtures coming up. They're not too bad in the next 4 or 5 weeks. They've got Newcastle, they got West Ham away, piece of piss. Got Villa at home, piece of piss.
Whoa.
It's that Newcastle game, and from what we've heard from Solskjaer so far, when questioned on it, he said that he's not a player that he can see sitting on the bench at Old Trafford. But he might make him sit on. He might want to sit him on the bench at the London Stadium. I don't know.
I think so.
Mark Noble will kick him out the game.
You'll need more than that, mate. I think he's more or less nailed to start. My opinion is, I think Portugal play 2 or 3 times in the next couple of weeks, and I think if we see him start 1 or 2 of those games, we'll see him start against Newcastle. I think it's only if he sits on the bench in all of their games in the international break, I might have doubts. But that's basically, and people that have said, "Oh, he hasn't had a pre-season." That's his pre-season, is a trip with Portugal and training with Bruno. That's it. That's his pre-season. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. I can't not look at bringing him in as a United fan, and my emotional attachment to the guy. I feel like I have to bring him in whether I like it or not. I might consider moving him out when we have the fixtures against Liverpool, City, Chelsea, etc. But if he's flying, like if he flies through like the first 4 games and scores a couple of goals, it might be trickier to get rid of him than keep him there, and I might then have to use the wild card to try and move other players around to fit Lukaku in from game week 7 when the Chelsea fixtures turn, which leads us on to our next topic perfectly, because we put a poll out and we asked the community on Twitter what they wanted us to talk about, and surprisingly enough, they wanted us to talk about the newbies, the players that have arrived through the transfer window. We've obviously touched on a lot of the players through the pre-season, so we're just going to revisit a couple of them, but then look at some players that have just signed in the last 24 to 48 hours and a couple that haven't signed at all. Right, so first things first, I thought it would be fun to get Ronaldo's figures and Lukaku's figures from last season, and then stick Oddison Edouard next to them. Well, he was brilliant in the Scottish Premier League last year. Who, I mean, just on a note, it is just after 8 o'clock, and yeah, Edouard hasn't signed yet.
Supposedly
Palace.
done though.
But apparently it is more or less done. But yeah, it just hasn't happened yet. So we haven't got a price for him. Let's have a look at his stats first. I didn't work out the FPL points because I forgot to. 18 goals last season, 4 assists, 110 shots, 53 shots on target, just under 48.2% of his shots on target, which is brilliant. Works out 0.7 goals per game, 0.15 assists per game, 4.25 shots per game, with 2 shots on target per game. And apparently, the Scottish Premiership did not have XG last season, so yeah, it hasn't made its way north of the border yet. XG.
Oh god.
I'm my first thought when I saw that Edouard was joining Palace was this is just another Jordan Ayew, Christian Benteke.
Whoa, careful.
It's just another.
Let's not talk ill of Christian Benteke.
Another reasonably good
No need for
striker
that.
coming into a Palace side and going to suffer because there's no real creativity behind him. They've got some good creative players. I don't think there's the gelling together yet. Whether we see that over time with Vieira, I think his priority has been get them to stop conceding goals to start with, and then we'll think about scoring some goals after that.
I mean, not conceding some goals has worked. I mean, if I don't know anything about FPL, I'm here for the banter and the jokes, right?
The banter and the jokes.
I think Edouard's got some better players around him now. Surely, I know Palace are still missing Eze to come back, but at least Zaha. I mean, if Conor Gallagher can score 2 against West Ham, he'll score goals against almost any team this season. So I think he's got some better weapons around him. I'm interested to see Edouard's price because I think if he comes in at 6.5 or around the Tony Armstrong, Pookie kind of mark, then it's another one that when we're looking to save
makes him an interesting one.
Money
as long as he's locked in to start.
I think he will be if they're paying. I presume I think it's
14
about
million.
14 million. So it's a decent sum for Palace, isn't it? And I think if he comes in at 6.5, and it looks like everyone's going to want 2 of Kane, Lukaku, and Ronaldo. If you're then looking to play a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3, you're going to need someone at that price. And I think as much as we joke about Crystal Palace and conceding goals, I think they're still probably a better team offensively than Armstrong maybe at Southampton, maybe Tony at Brentford. I would think Pookie at Norwich. He could be an interesting option, but no, in FPL they'll make him 7.5, and there's just too many better options in and around that price for me. So it's a wait and see on Edouard, definitely.
Yeah, I think this is from playing the Fantasy Scotland game last year. The only thing that annoyed me, he gets booked a lot. Like, he's an angry man. And yeah, he gets booked, and he even got a couple of red cards last season. And yeah, playing for Vieira, I'm not sure is going to help his aggressive side at all. Anyway, on to the slightly lesser well-known players on this particular page. So we've got Ronaldo and Lukaku. We've already spoken at length now about Ronaldo this week and Lukaku last week, but we'll just do a quick comparison between the two over the last season, because I know a lot of people out there are they're on a coin flip. They only want one of them, and where we're probably all agreed, ideally we might want to try and squeeze both of them in. If we're, I mean, James, you're on a wild card. Are you going to be looking to try and squeeze both in?
I'm just working on the background now of trying to get Ronaldo, Kane, and Lukaku in.
And Salah.
No, not and Salah. No, let's
all right.
not
You
be
can
too
get
crazy.
Gilmore and
4.5 on that.
As I said, if I do rate reduce the wild cards, then Ronaldo will definitely be coming in for me.
Just to let you know, Freddie Woodman he's not going to be in the team probably after the international, so you can't start with him as your goalkeeper.
Yeah, but I've got Jed Steer because Martinez is away with Argentina, haven't I? I got Jed Steer against Chelsea. That's
so he's
easy clean sheet, easy clean sheet and bonus points. Got get Jed in. No, I think if I wild card, Ronaldo will 100% be in that team, and it'll be a set and forget from there. And then if he is poor, then it's an easy step down to Lukaku or a step sideways to Harry Kane, but I can't see Ronaldo being poor. If I'm not wild carding, then I feel like I've got bigger issues in my team than moving Kane to Ronaldo, and I think that's going to become the problem for a lot of people is without hitting the wild card or without taking a -4, I think a lot of people are going to get to the stage where they're going to have more issues to deal with in their teams than trying to move one premium to the other, if that makes sense. And I think it might be, I can see Ronaldo having a price rise before he even plays, if I'm honest. And then can he not have a price rise?
We did this. I discussed this with a couple of people earlier today. Yeah. So his price is locked for 7 days. So until
is it for 7 days?
Yeah. So until next Tuesday, his price cannot change. Whether it then changes on Wednesday next week.
I was already looking. There's already been. I'm just gonna grab it up now. I think I saw something ridiculous that he's already been transferred out of about something ridiculous amount of teams. So I just want to have a look. I think
there'll be people on wildcards playing around and actually making the moves.
He's already been transferred out of 5,500 teams.
Don't do that, Ronaldo. People. You'll lose your team value.
Yeah.
I found that out the hard way a few years ago. So anyway, Ronaldo versus Lukaku.
I'm going with both.
Lukaku scored 193 points to Ronaldo's 183, but Ronaldo scored 29 goals to Lukaku's 24. Assists, Lukaku wins 11-2. Shots, Ronaldo 162 shots compared to Lukaku's 89. So per 90, Ronaldo 5.2 shots per 90 to Lukaku's 2.78. So you're getting some. I mean, we all know that Ronaldo just shoots on sight. He gets within 20 yards of goal. If he has half a glance at goal here and sees that gap, he'll go for it and he'll have a shot. Lukaku very much takes a touch and looks around and then tries to like lays it off to someone, then moves into the box to try and pick up the next ball, whilst Ronaldo would sort of make that turn and then take the shot straight away. Shots on target, percent, we'll go with percent. Lukaku had less shots, almost half as many shots, but 47.2% of them were on target, whilst Ronaldo 37% on target. Both with exactly the same shot creating actions, 114. Goal creating actions, Lukaku 24 to Ronaldo 16. Non-penalty XG, Ronaldo 20.4, Lukaku 18.1, meaning that Ronaldo just pips it with a non-penalty XG per 90 of 0.66 to Lukaku's 0.56. I mean, both of them, at a glance here, what I see is I'm getting either more goals or more contributions overall. Like Lukaku could score less, but he might pick up more assists across the season. I mean, we see that the FPL points, they're an equivalent 183 to 193, and they don't include BPS, but you'd think with the more goals, Ronaldo probably makes up those 10 points somewhere along the line through bonus points, so it's fairly even. Does that change our minds on one or the other? If we had to pick one or the other?
No, I was just about to say, and it goes along with those. Is I think when you look at it from an FPL point of view, if I was to say one now, I feel like Lukaku might score more points this season, fantasy wise. One, because of what we said about the assists, and two, I think he's more likely that if Chelsea do well, he's going to be the focal point to pick up bonus points. Whereas I think if United do well, as I've said before, it could come from 4 or 5 different sources, and it might then be hard for Ronaldo with just a goal or an assist to pick up the bonus points. And I think that could be the upside of Lukaku going forward, that he might be a little bit more certain for the bonus points within that Chelsea team.
All right, we've spoken about them enough, and I'm sure there's loads of other content out there out this week about that particular situation. So let's not bore you with that. Let's get down to the nitty gritty and what people really want to see, and that is Wolves' new signing Hwang, West Ham's new signing Nikola Vlasic, and Arsenal's new signing, who I hadn't heard of until this morning. How do you pronounce his name?
Tomiyasu.
Tomiyasu. There we go.
Yeah.
I think, well, I don't even know why I put Hwang in this list, because there's not much to go by from him. 3 starts, 5.5 forward, 3 starts last year, 18 appearances overall. Would have scored 22 points at 4.3 points per 90.
Amazing.
He got an assist. I think that's more down to the fact that, 460 minutes in 3 starts.
Rob, I'd just like to interject here and just say there's only one choice to make here.
None of them. Go back to the last
Then
page.
One, only one. That's his name. One.
That's
we
it.
missed that. We missed that.
Yeah. See you after the international break. It's nice.
Goals 0, assists 1, shots 10, shots on target 6, a 60% shots on target rate. It's impressive, isn't it? Shot creating actions 11, goal creating actions 3. Just nothing much to shout from him. I think he's just been brought in as another backup for a role, hasn't he?
No, you've sold him to me. You sold him to me. He's going in the wild card team.
5.5 million. Stick him on your bench, mate. He looked very happy to be at the Molineux the other day when they presented him to the fans, and the fans really looked like they knew who he was when he came onto the pitch. So yeah, Juan. Let's just move on. Nikola
Yeah,
Vlasic,
move on.
who we saw a bit of during the Euros, playing for Croatia. Your new signing, Sham, who you declared before we started recording, you know nothing about.
That's correct. I know he's Croatian. I know he comes from Spartak Moscow, and other than that, I know nothing else.
Well, shall I tell you some
but
stuff
look,
about him?
let's hold on. Before we go into stuff about him, right? Let me just say that I don't think I don't think he's going to go straight in the side. I know that he's a 27. We signed him for 27 million, but at the moment, the way that we are playing, so essentially he would take Fornals or Benrahma's place. Probably so. Fornals and Benrahma are switching between left and 10 at the moment. In the I haven't seen the highlights from the Palace game, but in the other game against Leicester, Benrahma was playing on the left and Fornals in the 10. And the first game of the season against Newcastle, Benrahma was playing in the 10 and Fornals on the left. Either way, both of them are playing really good at the moment. So I can't see him taking their place at the moment. However, for Europa League, I can. If that form then continues and goes in, and he's given a chance in the league, then maybe he will get starts, and maybe one of those two will drop out and play in the Europa League. Bear in mind the Europa League starts at the end of this month, so I think game week 5 or 6. So I don't think he's a buy now. I think he's a wait and see.
Here's a question for you: if West Ham signed Jesse Lingard tonight, which is still feasible, it could happen. There's still rumours that there's negotiations taking place. Would that opinion that you've just made for Vlasic count towards Lingard as well?
So the only way, and this does go for Vlasic as well, the only way that at the moment I can see him going in that side is if we change formation and play 3-5-2, or if Bowen is dropped and Vlasic / Lingard is played in Bowen's position, but that's on the right. I don't know whether or not Fornals or Benrahma have ever played on the right or can play on the right, and I don't know whether or not Lingard or Vlasic have played on the right either. From my understanding, it's no. So I just don't know where we sit with that. That's the only concern that I have.
Cool. Well, Nikola Vlasic, his stats they make fairly nice reading. Russia doesn't have XG. Putin doesn't like XG or XA, so they don't allow it. So last season, 26 matches played, started all of them, amassed 2,254 minutes. He would have scored the equivalent of 126 FPL points, less the bonus points. Scored 11 goals, 5 assists. So his FPL points would have been 5 points per 90, 0.44 goals per 90, 0.2 assists per 90, which makes good reading. 103 shots, 41 on target, so 39.8% shots on target at 1.64 per 90. That actually, I mean, maybe we have a look and see next week and compare him to the likes of Bowen, Benrahma, Fornals, and see how he matches up with them, because
but this is what I remember, it is a different league as well, right? So sometimes
the Russian league is an elite league. Just in case any Russians are listening.
so ordinarily I would say that he could take Fornals' spot, but Fornals is our workhorse. Yeah, he works really hard in that side. Last season we never saw Bowen, Fornals, Lingard. When Antonio was fit, we never saw Fornals, Lingard, Bowen, and Benrahma in that side because there's no space for all four of them. The only time where I can say definitely he's going to be starting is if and when Antonio's hamstrings turn to cheese. So yeah. I definitely think he's a wait and see. He might get the last 15, 20 minutes of games. And what I noticed in the Leicester game, and again, I don't know about the Palace game because I didn't see it, was we didn't make any subs until the 88th minute or 85th minute, even when we were winning 3-1. Whereas if we've got someone who's posting stats like this and is playing well, you could probably see a sub on 70, 75 minutes for Fornals or Benrahma coming off for Vlasic, because I don't think our squad, I think we have a great starting 11. Like genuinely, outside of the top four, I think we have one of the best starting 11s at the moment. But I don't think we have a good squad. And so that's why we probably signed Vlasic to help with that squad and that, you know, that the subs, because you know he doesn't do, Moyes doesn't do many subs generally because I don't think he trusts anyone.
Right. Finally, on to Tommy Ashu. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Tommy
Tomiyasu.
Yeah.
There's no H. It's hard. Tomiyasu.
Sorry, just breaking news: we've signed Alex Krall.
Oh,
There you
signed
go.
Alex
So-
Krall as well. So there's one for next week.
That's all right. I was just going back to Vlasic. I presume we think that not if, but when Antonio's hamstrings do go, he is now the striker because he plays as a centre forward. He has played as a false or a centre forward.
Yeah.
For Spartak. So we presume that that is the striker replacement, the striker cover more than
especially
anything.
if Krall's
now.
coming.
So
I'm
I
mean,
patron of
if
just quickly, Rob, I'm a patron of ex WHU employee, and he said in his, like, he's obviously a very reliable source, and he said that Moyes sees him as a false nine position in like a backup / replacement.
I was just thinking that we presume at some point Antonio is going to miss some games, and if he comes in as a $6 million midfielder and plays up front for West Ham, and if you carry on your form, then it could be an interesting one if we know Antonio is going to be missing for, you know, a prolonged 5, 6, 7 game weeks. Then I think it could be one of those that people move to, quite an easy move in and around those midfielders at that price.
100%.
And there's not many options that play up front in the midfield. So yeah, I think it's one to look and watch a little bit more.
Even if he doesn't play in that false 9 position, Bowen probably will. In which case, things will be moved around. Different formation, and then he'll be playing in that side.
Cool. So yeah, finally on to Tomiyasu. That it hasn't been confirmed, but I think we've had the here we go from Romano.
Well, supposedly he's been offered to every Premier League club this summer, is what I've just read. So Arsenal really are struggling.
I mean, the team that they need defenders. They need a whole new squad, I think. So they've got him. We haven't got a price for him. But again, he seems like I think it's one of those where if he plays at anyone else other than Arsenal, he's probably a decent option if he comes in at 4.5. But because he's at Arsenal, maybe becomes a tricky one. 31 matches played, 31 starts. He would have scored 65 points last year, but Bologna were pretty pants. So he lost a lot
mid-table.
He lost a lot of. I think it was when I was working out about 20 odd points through conceding goals last season. He scored twice, 16 shots on goal, 4 on target, so 25%. 25 shot creating actions, 2 goal creating actions. Interestingly, he has a shot every 2 games. He gets himself in positions to shoot. Sometimes.
I mean,
non-penalty
every
XG
2 games isn't exactly swinging up any trees, is it?
I mean,
well,
non-penalty XG of 1.2, mate. He's outscored his XG.
I think if he comes in at 4.5, Luke Ayling didn't get any attacking returns last season. I know Luke Ayling had his 1 for the season,
and he got 2 last season.
And as much as we joke about Arsenal, they can't get any worse. Let's be honest. And he
yeah,
ain't
you're
going to have a lot of competition at right back, is he, anymore at Arsenal?
at that 4.5 mark. You're basically sitting him there with, your Luke Aylings, your Joel Veltmans.
Well,
When
it's
he
him against Ben White for me, and I
you
think there's
can play.
more upside to a
Well,
wing back.
yeah, of course, all day. It's whether I think for Arsenal the problems are a lot deeper than signing a wing back. I think they need another strong, experienced midfielder that doesn't go lunging in 2-footed on people every week.
They need Partey back, is what they need.
They need a striker, a top striker. There's so many aspects of that team that need improving, and there was always questions with spending that amount of money on Ben White to then come in alongside Gabriel, and you thought that, is that then the partnership White, Gabriel, Tierney on the left? I mean, they've been trying to sell Bellerin all summer but can't get rid of him. But that looks like that's happening tonight.
He's gone. Yeah, he's on his way.
But it's the midfield. They lose so many games in midfield, and because that midfield is so lazy and lackluster, they just don't. Because the midfield doesn't move up quick enough, the forwards can't press, and then the forwards are lazy anyway as well. Like up front, Saka obviously full of energy, but those around him. I mean, there was a clip I saw. Edison gets there's a long ball over, the ball rolls through to Edison. He stands there for like 15, 20 seconds, not being pressed. There wasn't for about 10 seconds, you don't even see an Arsenal player in the picture with him. And then Aubameyang just stands there for like 10 seconds, like, am I going to press you? Am I not? Because he hasn't got there's no midfielders coming up behind him to make it worth him pressing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just lazy. And that was when I think that was still in the first half. So there would have only been 2-0 down still. And it's like, come on, just have some like fucking balls to just have a go. I'm not sure. I'm really worried about this Arsenal side.
Well, I
think
just
they have
saw
to find something.
Someone just tweeted that once they get everyone back, Arsenal fans can't be excited. If you can't be excited by a team that could be Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Tierney, Partey, Sambi, Lokonga, Saka, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, and Aubameyang, it's not a bad starting 11 once they get everyone back. I know they're bottom of the league right now, but they're not going to be bottom of the league in another 3 games.
How many goals did Aubameyang score last season in the league?
That's a good question. Well put. They are missing goals.
I think it was 3 or 4. It was awful.
Just a quick point on Arsenal whilst we're on it, James. You said about that side, like genuinely, like Arsenal are a big club, right? Let's not fuck around here. They are a big side. A big club. But that side that you just named, I think West Ham starting 11 is better than that. So, really, genuinely, I do think our starting 11 is better than that.
Ramsdale over Fabianski.
Areola over
Areola. Yeah,
I can see Fabianski being dropped shortly, and Areola starting.
I mean, I just think that there is. I mean, that 3 behind the striker in Smith Rowe, Saka, and Odegaard that's a strong 3 if they get that right for me.
Benrahma, Fornals, and Bowen, I think, is as good.
I think it is as good. I think there's just that Arsenal 3. Obviously, we haven't seen anything from them, but if you got, that's a 3 there that Arsenal could hang their hat on for the next 5 seasons.
I mean, who from Arsenal's lineup comes in to the West Ham team? Well, I think Saka would over Bowen on the right.
Partey
Saka
next
definitely
to
does
Declan Rice.
Because that's why he gets picked for England and Bowen doesn't.
Not instead of Souček.
Do you
Partey
not
over
think?
Souček? No.
Do you not think?
No, I think Souček and Rice work really well together.
Okay.
I'll take
Yeah.
Zuma and Ogbonna / Dawson over Ben White and
I think Ben White will come good for them.
Ben White would come into the West Ham.
I think if you sign Ben White, he'd be starting.
I think I think Ben White, Saka, and Aubameyang from 4 years ago. He walks into that West Ham side, but he doesn't.
You could make a case that if Aubameyang and Antonio are both in the same form, who has the higher ceiling? That if Aubameyang does find his form again, then he might have a higher ceiling.
I mean, he hasn't had it for a year, has he?
I just looked. Aubameyang got 10 last season in the Premier League. I know it's still pretty shocking, but the 2 seasons before that, 22 and 22, it's not. It's not bad numbers, is it? He's still
shared
on
the golden boot, didn't he? With one in those.
Yeah, he's still on 64 and 116. I mean, he's still on a goal more than a goal every other game. It's still not a terrible record, is it? As much as we joke about Arsenal, they have been below standard for a couple of years now.
Right. Maybe another thing to look at next week. We spoke about in pre-season about making some predictions for the season. We made some FPL ones, and then we wanted to have a look at how the season started, and maybe that's what we can chat about next week is some predictions for the season, who we think the title challengers are, who we think will go down, why we all think Arsenal are going to go down, and we'll and we can have a good discussion about that. I think that's all for this week. Should we have a look at the mini league and see if we can spot anyone?
If you really want to.
So top of our mini league
my name
is in first place Mallinmore United, Dara Cunningham moving up. I think he was second last week with 274 points total. Second is Dis Struick with the Flying Dutchman on 273. Third, Ryan Campbell on 271, along with Emil Jurkerson. Then fifth, Pontus Gunleik. Then sixth, we got Frederick Petra. Then we got eighth, Richard James Neal. Ninth, Mihir Kumar Mesh. And 10th, Finton Hogan.
You missed seventh, mate. You missed seventh.
And seventh is some idiot that's had some sort of ridiculous start that sees him sit 11k in the world. But yeah, well done to all those that are currently flying up the top there and past that 300 point mark in game week 4.
I'll be there soon.
Most likely. What, the 300 point mark?
Yeah.
Game week 10.
Triple captain this week, and I'll be right back there.
For those that haven't joined yet, the mini league is open for another couple of weeks. Entries do close at the deadline to game week 5. So if you want to join, the code is 1PQSLT. The auto join link is in the description under the podcast or the YouTube. And for those on YouTube, it's on your screen right now. So that's all for this week. I don't think we need to talk about our plans for game week 4. There's still a few hours of the transfer window open. There could be lots more. We know that we sometimes wake up the next morning and moves are still being finalised, where they get their special permission to carry on. But I think by this time next week, we'll all have a real idea of what every squad looks like. I know that a few teams are playing friendlies in the next week. Those that haven't got many players away on international duty. I know that Phil Jones is getting a start tomorrow night for Man United in a friendly. I think it's against someone like Southend. So yeah, Phil Jones will be playing tomorrow. So yeah, next week we'll just we'll have to have a look into Phil Jones and how he fits into that centre back partnership with Rafael Varane. He says with a straight face. I'm so surprised he hasn't left in this transfer window. Like someone
No
just
one
take
wants
him
him.
away. It's like I was having a look at his salary, 75k a week, and compare
Jesus,
that
that's why
to
no one's taken him.
he's stealing a living at United. Not even on the bench. Yeah, plays the odd game for the reserves. But there you go. I mean, he's the most memed footballer in the world. So, I mean, if he can't make a living playing football, at least he can make a living selling memes. Right, James, thank you for coming on. You're joining us again next week, aren't you? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, possibly. If
We'll see.
work something out, I'm sure.
I mean, I'll be here next week, but my voice will be fucked even
Well,
more because I'm
I
doing
mean,
the same thing that I did last week than I'm doing this weekend. So
I'm here Monday night. That's it. Next week.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
that's right.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. So keep an eye out. We'll stick another community poll out over the weekend. Haven't got a clue what we'll talk about. But that's about it. Please, almost forgetting all your bits here. Please like, subscribe, follow, and all that jazz on all the platforms.
Yeah.
On Twitter. On Twitter, find us on Twitter at FPL _Happy Hour. You'll find us on YouTube. If you're watching this, then you've found us. Well done. You'll find us on Spotify, iTunes, Podbeans, Castbox. I think I saw us on earlier.
Anchor.
There's loads of places. Pornhub.
Bringing back Panda's pictures, aren't they?
Listen, we're only on Pornhub when James is here, right? Because he's the good-looking one out of the three.
Yeah, that's a subscription service. $4.99 to me directly.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Enjoy the international break, and we shall see you next week. Cheers, guys.
See you
See
later.
you guys.